We've all met that person. The one who speaks with just absolute, unshakable certainty, but you get the feeling they don't really know that much. And then on the other hand, you've got the person who's always asking questions, always digging a little deeper. Well, today we're jumping into something I call the confidence trap. It's this powerful illusion where the loudest, most confident voice in the room isn't always the smartest. In fact, we're going to see that true intelligence often lies in having the courage to admit what you don't know. So, picture this. There's a huge, high-stakes project on the line. A colleague glances at a really detailed research brief and says exactly this, right? Their confidence just completely shuts down the conversation. But then, when it's time to actually deliver, their big solution is shallow, it misses all the critical details, and suddenly the entire project is at risk. Look, this isn't just a story about a frustrating coworker. It's a perfect example of a really dangerous mental shortcut our brains love to take. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by digging into the confidence trap and the psychology that's driving it. Then we'll walk through 5 really key warning signs to look for. After that, we're going to explore the solution, something called cognitive humility, and finish up by totally redefining what true intelligence really looks like. So, what was really going on with our overconfident colleague from the story? Well, it wasn't just simple arrogance. It was actually a very predictable psychological trap. And this brings us right to the heart of the issue, the illusion of competence. You might have heard of it as the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's this tricky cognitive bias where just a tiny bit of knowledge feels like a whole lot, and it tricks our brains into this state of, completely unearned confidence. The real danger here is that these people genuinely don't know what they don't know, which can make them a huge liability on any team. So this illusion really creates 2 completely opposite mindsets. On one side, you've got cognitive hubris. That's that state of extreme certainty where you just overestimate what you know. But on the other side, you have cognitive humility, which is all about questioning your own assumptions and really being aware of your own limits. One of these mindsets slams the door on learning, and the other one, well, it throws it wide open. So how can you spot this cognitive hubris in other people? Or maybe more importantly, how do you spot it in yourself? Let's dive into a practical self-check with 5, let's call them brutally honest warning signs. First up, speaking in absolutes. Just listen for words like always, never, or obviously, especially when the topic is complex. That is a major red flag. The world is full of nuance, right? And real experts, they get that. They appreciate the gray areas. But people caught in this illusion of competence, they tend to see everything in a simplified black and white picture that just doesn't exist. This is a massive one. For someone trapped in cognitive hubris, admitting I don't know feels like admitting failure. But in reality, it's a sign of incredible strength and self-awareness. It's literally the launch pad for all real learning. The smartest people I know embrace these 3 little words because they know it signals an opportunity to grow. Okay, think about what happens when someone shows you data that totally contradicts what you believe. What's your first instinct? Is it curiosity or is it defensiveness? See, the illusion of competence makes us want to protect our fragile sense of expertise. So we dismiss, we discredit, or we just flat out ignore any information that challenges our worldview. In any kind of debate or discussion, there are really 2 different goals you can have. Is your main objective to win the argument, or is it to find the best possible answer? Someone who needs to be right will defend their position no matter what, but someone who's focused on getting it right, they'll listen, they'll adapt, and they'll work toward the truth, even if it means admitting they were wrong to begin with. And this brings us right back to our colleague from the beginning. Reading one article, watching a single YouTube video, it can create this really powerful but also really dangerous feeling of mastery. It's sometimes called the peak of Mount Stupid. It's that exact spot where we have just enough knowledge to be really confident, but not nearly enough to actually be competent. Okay, so identifying the problem is the first big step, but how do we actively fight against it in our own minds? Let's talk about the antidote, actually developing genuine cognitive humility. Here are 4 really powerful habits you can start building. First, go out and actively find smart people who disagree with you. Listen to them. Second, get really comfortable saying, I might be wrong here, but it completely changes the dynamic of a conversation. Third, just ask more questions than you make statements. And finally, test your own understanding by trying to explain a complex topic simply to someone else. It's sometimes called the Feynman technique, and it is brilliant at showing you exactly where the gaps in your own knowledge are. And this all brings us to probably the most important shift in thinking we can make. we need to totally reevaluate what it actually means to be intelligent in the first place. Here's the crucial point. Intelligence isn't some static library of facts you've got memorized in your head. It's a dynamic, living process. It's the humility to question your own assumptions and the curiosity to constantly be updating your understanding of the world. The most brilliant minds out there are in a perpetual state of learning, not a fixed state of just knowing. All right, let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. Always be on guard for that illusion of competence in yourself, just as much as in others. Use those 5 warning signs as a personal checklist. Actively work on building the habits that lead to cognitive humility. And always, always remember, the questions you ask are often way more powerful than the answers you think you already have. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is one belief you've held for a long time that you are now willing to maybe re-examine? Because the answer to that question just might be your next great discovery.